Oh,
Hold
now
on.
it did.
There we go. All right. Do that again.
We
Right.
are professionals.
Ladies
Nick,
and
me.
gentlemen.
We
Ladies
know
and
what we're
gentlemen.
doing.
Um, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just talk to you for a minute. Welcome to I Words and Upwards. This is the introductory first ever recorded episode. It is not live right now. It's a record just because it's the way it is. We decided to do it this way for a number of different reasons. But my name is Ivan. If you know me from my previous appearances in the online space. Jesse, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I go by Ruby Slippers. Ivan and I met last season online and kind of watching Wrexham mostly, but ended up having lots of great conversations as friends about countless other topics, as there are things in the world to discuss, and really enjoyed each other's company. And when you expressed this idea for a project, I was really honored to be invited to be included. So I'm excited, given that we don't have a whole lot of a plan today, and it could be a complete one-off. This could be the limited edition, only appearance, this copy, this episode. Get it now on eBay. But
Exactly,
but
exactly.
maybe not. We may come back. We'll see.
Wait a minute. Yeah, a little disclaimer. Everything is kind of touch and go. I'm out and about, sort of a field setting right now, so internet can be a little bit sketchy. I'm from New Zealand. I been here for many years now. I'm originally from a different part of the world. We'll get back to that later at some stage. And
Is this
Jesse,
when I should
aka Ruby
say I'm
Slippers,
from
is
Kansas? I totally should. Your introduction and your
yeah,
beautiful attempt at structure. Oh yeah, I'm just talking to you like it's just you. If people watch,
yeah,
not all of them will necessarily know that I'm based in Kansas, and that's where I'm coming
yeah,
from. Though you do look like you're
yeah.
somewhere in the Middle East, given the visual right now.
It's yeah, it's my favorite hat, and it's the sun here right now is a bit random, so this helps a lot, at least to shade out this part of my face. So
Mm.
yeah, no, all good. Um, Look, the reason why we decided to record the this well, let's call it a podcast, I guess, or a vlog,
It's a conversation.
is a conversation. Call it what you wish. Is mainly to so that both of us have a bit of an outlet and we can talk without kind of a with a lack of a better word, censorship, and
Mm.
we can
Ooh,
in Wrexham, but also am I
you broke
am
up
I still
just a
here?
bit, but I don't know if that means it'll go that way in the recording or not.
Yeah. Well, I'll say it again. The reason why we decided to start this project is to have an open conversation and share our thoughts and ideas without, let's call it censorship, call it as you wish. Keep everything as open and clear as we can, keep everything as objective as we can. We do not intend to hurt anybody's feelings. We do not intend to go into deep emotional things when it comes to with Wrexham and other British football club. British
Oh, you froze
depends on your
again.
political view. Yep. Hello, hello.
Yeah,
Is
you're back,
it
but it
playing up?
did choose to click out. I think maybe what I would just
Yeah.
augment, even though you probably have an excellent end of that speech to include, is maybe more than I think censorship is a functional word, but I don't think
Mm,
that Ivan or I feel that we are not welcome in spaces to talk about in other spaces about what we feel if it pertains to Wrexham. Certainly a lot of Wrexham spaces have very good reasons for sticking to particular topics. So politics, for example, is a huge one that generally gets excluded because football brings people together. They look for it for a lot of different reasons in community. And especially being a bigger platform with a following, that's a really sound choice for a lot of folks to make. And this is not necessarily going to be a political podcast. We're not entirely sure what this is going to be. But I would say that maybe what I've always felt that how I first engaged with you was really from a learner's position. And I think that given your background with instruction, that you can be really helpful for folks with different backgrounds to get a better grasp of some fundamentals. I don't know that with everybody having their own kind of niche and style and structure, that it would necessarily have enough space or have have room in another forum. So we've got this one. Honestly, before today, I wasn't even sure if we would talk about Wrexham at all. So when we tell you that this is not super planned, apparently Ivan wrote an outline that I didn't get. But the main function was for us to talk. And I ask a lot of questions about some things as a learner. Ivan asked me about some stuff in life that may or may not end up in a conversation here. But because I've learned so much from that space, I was eager to support Ivan in trying to get some of his messages across clearly on football, because I really do feel that everything I've learned from you is really from the base of the sport rather than strictly from a particular team. And I think that probably has to do with some of your background and, of course, what matters to you and what doesn't. My football space for most folks is exclusively Wrexham, pretty much, and now Wales. But I am still very much a learner. And, we don't know what it'll be, but it'll be more than just that.
Very well put. I think the feeling is very much mutual. You're a very experienced person in your own regard, and you have a lot to share. And I can learn from you a ton. So I think it's going to be a two-way street in this regard. My background and your background, we'll probably talk about it further on. As for the football, just like I said before, we're not here to touch on emotional things when people are attached to a certain club. Because in the culture of a lot of football fans, it's a sacred thing. So we're not going to discuss the facts that we will discuss the facts, but we're not refer to the points of, it's been a long time since the team was suffering and everybody felt horrible, and now everybody feels great. So don't you dare talk about criticize whatever is going on. We're for the lack of a better word, we're above all that. We're taking an objective stance. We do not dwell into the history. We kind of discuss the present situation, and we talk about the roots, how it got to this place, how it relates to real life. We'll correlate that with our experiences, and we will try to, again, for the lack of a better word, predict the future as much as possible, unless things change. Because there is one thing in this life that is permanent: it's change. So test and adjust.
Predict the future until it changes. That's a real safe angle, Ivan. You'd be great.
Well, we can only predict the future based on the circumstance and the parameters in the left and right of arc that we are given. If that scope changes, the outcome changes too. So that's why most of the predictions, they are given in principle. You cannot necessarily pinpoint the day and the time and the exact end state, but you can tell the strategic end state and the outcome based on the analysis of the current situation.
So I would say maybe more like forecasting, almost like weather patterns, because some folks really get hung up on the word prediction, like I said, like a psychic, as it will be. Yeah, it's guesswork when you start talking about what's your prediction for a score. But I think you're talking about patterns like one would see in weather or things like that. And so I would almost call it more forecasting. When you're doing something based on previous data, this is what is reasonable to expect next.
Correct. 100% correct. You see, that's why it's me and you together, because I think it's going to be quite a good partnership, you will translate my retarded lingo to the rest of the world.
First, and when we do that, when you edit this, make sure you bleep that word, please. Please don't bleep that word. But yes, there will be growth, as there has been in our friendship. There will be growth on both sides, and we welcome people who are interested in also growing beyond, like you mentioned, our sentimental attachment to teams, or maybe even to styles or players, which is a new thing for me. Us letting go of players that I have affection for based on the Wrexham journey and the documentary. This is all new for me, having to say goodbye to them. They're not dying. I get that. But still, I wish we could keep everybody in a Wrexham shirt, forever. I think there's a place for folks who would like to engage with you or have questions for you respectfully that can still be very sentimental to their team. But we're looking at how that can be shaped. That might be more of my side, offering up to you, Ivan, as someone who is, very surgical in kind of the analysis of some of these spaces. Just a couple of perspectives of, hey, for someone who's coming to it not just for the sport and the sake of the sport, here's what might be shaping some of the perspective, or they just might not be coming to get the same stuff out of it as someone else. So everybody's welcome here. We are willing to entertain perspectives. We are willing to grow and discuss, because there's a lot of valid perspective. There's not really a right or wrong in a lot of cases, in my opinion. It's what are you bringing to the table, and what are you looking to get out of your experience with football or whatever. And we're okay with that. We all learn and grow from that. But again, it has to be respectful. And I guess that's probably the best theme. Isn't this great? Aren't we polished? Just repeat myself until I think of another idea.
Hey, you again cannot agree with you more. You're absolutely right. To comment on your previous remark, we're not bleeping shit. All right, so it is what it is. And when I talk about myself, and I can call myself whichever word I want. Yes. All right, so and I said it's mine. Okay, so we're if you guys are very sensitive, if you get offended, if you get your feeling hurts real easy, that's not the right place for you. I can tell you straight away, because I'll be dropping some bombs, and Jesse as well. We'll curse, we'll swear, and we do not apologize for it. We're not apologizing for it.
I would even say that cussing is so ingrained, like I'm not even conscious of it. But I do think that some of what you are probably motivated to share is maybe framed in a way that doesn't have to be adversarial, because again, everything that you've shared with me makes so much sense to me. And I don't think that there's necessarily resistance in a community to fact or to well-explained logic for a system or a principle. So I don't think people should anticipate being offended by us. If they're unhappy with an idea, okay, obviously I can't be responsible for your choices in speech, but our goals are not to hurt people. We're not into that. There's enough in the world. I would emphasize
there is enough in the world of that, and
is to learn or to share with learning, so that we can all grow and appreciate things better, or be entertained. I don't know. Who knows why people show up? I'm convinced I've started this new business. This is a prototype, but the Ivan T-shirt company. This is our extra large. So we'll have a link for that at some point for people who want to place their orders after I get a few more designs. But mine is still too big, and I left it in the dryer on high. So I don't have one to model myself yet, but it's in the works. Lots of things coming if this continues.
And there is an underwear line as well.
Wow.
Jesse had
hell,
told me
man?
that in private.
Oh my god! I could have lost my whole computer on that. I could have lost everything. Put some sort of rain guard on it. Good grief, man. So, okay, well, what would you like to start with as maybe your first point today, or what's on your outline?
Look, this here episode, I didn't really want to dive into a single topic per se, because I want people to a lot of the people who will know us will watch this hopefully, and when they do, I want them to maybe leave a comment in the comment section, something that they would like to talk about. I have done a lot of things in my life. I went through quite a lot of different careers and still going through quite a bit. I can relate to a lot of the things, not only football and sports as such, but also other aspects of life, as well as you, Jesse. So if you guys just, little sort of early warning for you, ask questions. If you want us to discuss certain topics, please do. If you feel like something was not really covered enough in over the years with Wrexham, or anything that bothers you with relation to sort of that football world, for example, we can talk about it. But we always try to make parallels and comparisons with other aspects of life and other, the general broad realities that surrounds us. This for this one, I just sort of to create this sort of open conversation. I would like to start from the beginning of when I first interest for.
Oh, and you froze again. That's weird.
Back.
All right, now your voice is back, but when you do freeze, it's usually for about 4-second increments, but your image hasn't moved. And now I can't hear you if you're talking. Still don't hear or see you, but you can message me in the private chat. Okay.
All right, well, we're back.
Oh, you're back? Okay, you're not moving, but I hear you. Oh, now I can see you moving again. Okay.
No, it's no panic, no panic. We're it's just like I said, it's a bit sketchy and patchy, the network connection here.
And that was the end of what you said. Did you say anything after that?
Sorry, what was the end of what I said?
You just basically said it's sketchy with where you're at. And you won't always be at this.
So are we back now? Is it working?
Yeah, so far you are.
Yeah. Cool. So now what I wanted to say is that for Wrexham, just to sort of set up the layout, the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
I started.
Oop, you're muting again and frozen. It might be recording just fine on your side. It might just be the feed to me. Still frozen. Still frozen. Hey, we could abort and come back, but you would definitely need to figure out how to connect these parts together. I know we were planning no editing, but you might change your mind after this. Okay, well, I'll talk until you come back. I think that's a great idea for initial questions to have those submissions be football oriented. If we're going to start somewhere, let it be with what most of us have in common and let it be football. And we can go from there. I think Ivan was maybe going to give some background on his origin story like other superheroes or qualifications for having some of the discussions and perspectives that he has. And then there's me, who mostly just brings questions and hopefully humor, though Ivan's a pretty funny guy himself. We do have at least one kind of game planned that I have been looking forward to for such a long time for him to help me with, that will have its world debut whenever we get this on the interwebs. And hopefully that will be something fun for everyone to look forward to and bring some levity if we end up with some tougher conversations or some disappointment. There's, again, a lot going on in the world and a lot of people have stressors. And we would hope to be a supportive space that's also an educational space. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Do you still want me to talk? While we're waiting on Ivan, I'd like to talk a little bit about the name of the show. Oh, he's back. He's back. Did you hear any of that?
Jesse. No, for some reason everything froze for like a minute, so I'm back.
Okay.
But the recording is still going.
Yes.
Okay, so
Okay.
what I'm going to try, yeah.
I mean, I don't think people deserve to suffer through an unedited version, but we can if you want. It's your show. And again, we don't know. Maybe that'll be the test, is you post it and see if it was still recording well and just my side of it couldn't see it. I mean, that we're learning, folks, for damn sure. We're learning as we go.
We are. But look, it's weird because everything from my end seems to be okay. But let's go back to.
That is what's most important then.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to what I was saying before. Is that I first started watching Wrexham documentary from the sort of middle of the season 1,
mm-hmm.
and I really liked the setup because it reminded me of my time, that level that I played on, and the dressing room and the dynamics. I could really relate to it, and it reminded me of the days gone kind of a thing. And I understood exactly what those people were going through, what the players were going through, and I just started following out of sheer interest and sort of reminiscing about my time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it developed into obviously a bit of not a fandom as such, but by this day I'm following the club, but I would not call myself a like hardcore emotional fan. It's more of I look at it from the point of view of analyzing and learning and watching the progress and regress and ups and downs, and it's good to feel a connection, but at the same time I'm okay with keeping that distance, and okay. I can call things the way they are. That's what lets me do that, because it just like I said before, a lot of the people in the UK, and they think that their club is quite sacred, and you should never really be critical about certain things, especially if things go well, if they think that the things go well. Well, I don't have that problem. I don't have that bias. I can call things the way they are, and within the space.
Well, for me, in just what my observations have been as obviously an American and relative newcomer without the background that you do, I haven't really seen as much with the UK supporters having trouble being critical in the sense of analytical, right? So being analytical about play, especially, or some decisions with the club, even when times are good, because they have been so invested for so long. Yes, it is sacred to them. So I think their expectations are pretty high. And you're dealing with a fan base, for lack of a better term, that is generally highly educated about the sport. People who have grown up with it before they could talk. So they have a lot of innate knowledge with which to compare what they think level of play should be or what formation styles, things like that. I I think there are other places in the world or people who prefer different styles or who are newer to the sport, and again, the attachment and everything that Wrexham means, and I include myself in a lot of that. The fact that I don't watch football elsewhere because I don't fucking care is because this club is precious to me. And then by extension, as I've brought in my horizons, Wales so many times being an underdog in so many scenarios. Whereas rugby, totally different story. I'll watch just about any rugby, and maybe at some point we'll touch on Six Nations in the coming weeks. But for me, I haven't seen it a reticence to analyze or criticize Wrexham from UK fans. But you and I float in different circles and see different things online. So it doesn't negate what you've said. That's just what my experience has been.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from and saying that. What I mean is, quite often when I try to discuss the situation at the club, not at the club, as a company, as a admin body, but more of a from the player coach dynamics kind of a thing, from the performance on the pitch. A lot of people say, well, look, we're winning, or look, we're in first, second, third place. What you say makes no sense because we're still up here and we just got 2 promotions. When people talk purely from a point of view of winning and losing, that indicates to me that there is a certain limit to their perception of professional sports organization and how things develop in general when it comes to performance-driven organizations. You simply cannot only operate on a plus. So
it can also be a matter of. Oh yeah, there you. Yeah, you did break off for a minute, but I wasn't sure if I was interrupting you. So it could also be what matters to a person. What's their priority? Not to say plastic fans, but some people do care more about having an allegiance with a side and that side being winners. And if due to experience, that's your gauge for what is success because you don't know football well enough to have any other metric, then it's not a wrong one. It's certainly the clearest indication, but it isn't the whole story. And it changes. There's always going to be a winner, a loser, or in football, a draw. But if you want longevity, if your devotion or loyalty to a club is long-term, then there are things to think about in the future because it's all tied up. That success, those wins and losses, their viability in the future are tied into the club's finances. Things like an academy, opportunities for if they have a women's side, the impact on their community. So all good times and bad times cycle through. Wrexham's a great example of that. For them to have had their struggles and then to have the stroke of luck of Robin Ryan coming in, there couldn't be a better example of fortunes change. Now, they may not change as quickly or as often as we'd like, but that does happen. And when you aren't necessarily prepared for what an outcome could be with a forecast that lets you know, hey, this may not go on forever. If this is, especially again, newer fans, what you know most is this really spectacular ascent of the Wrexham team, and you start seeing it struggle compared to when they were against teams in lower leagues. You might be frustrated, you might be confused, you might be worried about what that means for the club, the people you care about associated with it. all we can hope to do is maybe have a little more context by having a bigger picture on principles, on dynamics that people can take and have a different lens to look at their connection to the club, really more on the club's, based on the club's performance, the players' performances, the management and coaching. So I think that's something that is a great tool and perspective for you to contribute to conversations as folks, take different perspectives to make their own. It's a mosaic. Everybody's got their own view, and to shape your own, it helps to hear what others are. And you can decide if you agree with that or not. You might just think about it and not make a decision, but more information doesn't hurt. I think it makes us more valuable, informed supporters. Yeah, I bet you're talking, but I can't hear you. Here's something. Oh, I bet it was the plane.
Yeah, no,
Ooh,
it's all good. Let's see if that works better.
This is the best video we've had of you since.
Okay, good.
Go.
Let me just fix this for a quick second. Okay, is this a bit better?
I think so. I mean, we're going to find out, but yeah, for a minute, yeah, the connection for you. So what were you saying? I was absolutely riveted.
No, you're you covered quite a lot of topics there. The key word is
we won't
probably
be
to
all
me
monologues, people. When we have a better connection, it won't be the Jesse monologue show or the Ruby monologue show.
No, it's fine. It should be every now and then. It should be because you bring a lot of value. But what you said about longevity is very important, because the fact that the team can, or any organization for that matter, can replicate and repeat certain things in certain order and adjust depending on circumstance to be able to repeat and replicate it again is a key to long-term success. When you are not able to do that and you're very unstable and inconsistent, that requires you to proceed forward and achieve success by any means necessary. And in a lot of situations, that will lead to a catastrophe in the future, because that breaks up your logistical shoulders and your supply chains, for the lack of the better word. Unsustainable effort for momentary short-term and medium-term gains leads to a big disastrous problem in the future.
So, people can look at the exact same pitch and the exact same players at the exact same moment, right? And see the winning stats side and therefore not worried, versus long-term sustainability of an approach that does cause worry. And we're not here to say that you can't keep the opinion of being happy, being content. You can be content with the style of play that's going on now. That's completely someone's prerogative. You're expressing what you see and why it concerns you about these future hopes and opportunities for players, club, fans, etc.
Yes, and look, it's not necessarily it's not like I do not wish the team or the organization only the best. It's I'm talking about it more from a comprehensive sort of strategic point of view, and because I can relate to certain things, because I know the inside kitchen of it and I have experienced a lot of things myself. I can see things that are not quite obvious unless you have been in those shoes.
Gotcha. So when you mentioned playing, what positions did you play? Tell me you were a defender. I can see you doing crunching tackles and shit.
going through youth system, I actually started as a left back, and then as I grew into the game, and as I grew into my own body, and as I developed in sports and athletic endeavors, I went up to a winger. I was very left-footed, and then and that's, I think, being so left-foot dominant, that's what stopped me from fulfilling my potential, and I really didn't like it myself. I hated the fact that I was so left-footed, but I finished my active time in the sport playing a striker. So anywhere around anywhere around the top third of the pitch, and I played a lot of different roles, being a forward player.
How many cards?
But yeah, I kind of
in your career. Were you a yellow card, red card kind of guy?
No. Never.
You saying you were technical and incisive?
I'm all for fair play. I do like physical contact, and I grew up and still do a lot of various activities within sports and outside of the sports. I like competition, but I play by the rules when it comes to sports, because I I think that, egos aside, we're all, when you are performing and competing against other athletes, you're all professionals, and you all need to stay healthy, and you need to wake up in the morning and do it again. So doing something that will jeopardize that, it's against my principles. So yeah, I collected a few cards, but I was never out to hurt anybody. I was never out to intentionally cause an injury. Yeah. So no. Yeah, I am all for, my mentality is teamwork. So individual efforts count for very little if your team is misfiring. One of my favorite things about myself, if I may so express this thought, is that in my head I have formulated the concept of what the system is, because any group of people working together towards a common goal inevitably becomes a system. And a well-functioning system possesses the quality that individual parts of that system do not possess. I came up with that myself back in the day when I was younger, and I only then, because it was pre-internet era kind of a thing, I have then later on realized that it's been formulated a long time ago. And some people call it synergy, some people, but there is only a couple of things that I can sort of count as my achievements, but that realization that when people are working well together, you literally develop a quality that cannot be replicated with individual parts of that system on their own. That was it sounds simple when you say it, but when you actually feel it, when you go through that process, it's very, very, very vivid. And long story short, I do not see that currently within the Wrexham team. And that's a big problem.
I would review as, maybe rephrase it as, it sounds like you're saying that you recognized earlier in your career that the whole of the team, or the teamwork, was greater or more important than the sum of its individual parts. And based on principles and what's important and your experience, that should be the priority, is the overall health of the group as a unit.
I will even, that's a very good thing you said right now, the sum. So let's say there is 11 players on the field, on the pitch, and there is more in the squad, on the bench, and then further reserve players, right? Let's pretend that each of those people carries a number, 10, 20, 75.
It's like a value number?
1,000. Yeah, whatever. Just give them a number based on their merit, for example, or skill level, or whatever. And if you add those numbers up, it should mathematically lead to a total sum. That total sum is bigger than it should be if the team works right.
Yep, on the most fundamental
level. Do you understand that?
Yes, which I think would also, when you talk about players going in or going out, the strength of the entity, that people are replaceable. Now I think of this more as a workforce kind of situation of, if you have a healthy organization, then having someone come and take your role and allowing the organization to carry on in your absence, be it promotion or whatever else, should be of primary concern to the organization. That sustainability of operations despite who is filling the roles. Now, transitioning a bit,
Yes.
can I ask, what was the style when you played? So when I say that, I don't necessarily mean, is it sexy football or whatever. For me, the biggest illustration versus contemporary Wrexham football, which is what I watch, and the sides they play against, I have seen footage of some of the historic Wrexham matches, and I simply cannot emphasize enough what a ride the 92 fucking Arsenal matches, because I am ruined forever. And what all the podcasts and folks who've been around forever talk about how football used to be, that shit was fucking great. And like, I'm now ruined because I wish it were still that way, but it is not. So what was your football like 92 Arsenal style in different parts of the world? I'm sure that different levels of physicality are acceptable versus what goes on in the EFL. What were you used to encountering as a player who wasn't trying to fuck people up on the field?
Yeah.
What did you experience?
Unfortunately, most of the football in my time that I played was what Wrexham is playing now. Is that primitive, direct, very unsustainable, based on individual moments of brilliance kind of a style. And
Okay.
only for a couple of years in my time, I was blessed. Not a good word. I was lucky with the coach and with the coaching team, who had developed a combinational, not necessarily possession style of play, but the style of play where we became functions on the pitch. We stopped being Ivans, Johns, Davids. We were fulfilling a role, a function. And after about a year of hard work, we could literally play in each and every position on the pitch except for goalkeeper.
Okay.
I could have easily played any position on the pitch.
Like a team of utility outfielders.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What I really want to do is here, because this is major, Ivan. I hope you thumbnail this spot in the feed, okay? Because what you've done is made a huge statement that I think will be helpful to a lot of folks. That this perspective you've shared so much, yes, from an analytical space, is you haven't just lived being a player. You have lived this scenario that you're talking about. You have been, air quotes, a Wrexham-esque player. So you were on the inside. You know how it felt to have those wins, to have a good culture, to have all of that. But then you had, as I'm immediately thinking of work experiences or other things like, because you were exposed to a comparative style, let me put that wrong. You were exposed to a different style inside and were a part of a different style and system. You could compare like fucking apples and oranges and had your aha. You would not, I assume, have the perspective you have now had you not had that change. That's huge.
No.
This is not just you coming, I see Wrexham from the outside and do that. No, dude, you were a insert name Wrexham. Wow.
Yes.
See, I didn't realize that.
And once I got into my coaching years, what I realized is that the level of the play, whether you're playing National League, League Two, League One, PL is different. I would say PL. That's why I don't follow PL. PL is, I don't call it football in the full sense of a word. We'll talk about it later. Yeah, EPL and other PL levels, apart from certain countries. But the level from amateur to semi-pro to pro football, if you cover your bases, if you tick the boxes, and if you develop a certain principle of work within the team, the level doesn't matter.
Mhm.
The level does not matter. It's the beauty of a good coach, of a coach who is talented, the coaching team who is working towards the development of the players, is that they don't need new players to go up a level. They develop the players to that level. And that, when people say we're buying a player for a future, that's what needs to happen. The player needs to play. The player needs to be developed. The player needs to grow within the
Not just
system.
bought for the future, but developed for the future.
Yes. So,
Okay.
and I have experienced that too. And just like I said before, only when the system is working, and the system can have many faces, names, and moderations. The overall level of the team exceeds the total sum of the numbers of the players.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a talented coach. That is very sustainable. It's a slower development.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a slower development, but it's bulletproof. It is bulletproof.
So
everything comes to an end. Can I just add one?
Go ahead.
Everything comes to an end, and any successful streak, any ascent will stop and plateau, and then the descent will come. But the difference between the style that we have now within the Wrexham team, the system, lack of it, and the opposite, something that I'm talking about, is that when the time comes for the coach and the team to stand down, and the coaching team to stand down, there is a foundation. Mm-hmm. There is a foundation that can be taken over by the next successor, and by somebody who can develop it further or amalgamate it with another style, and it can carry on. Mm-hmm. Currently, there is no foundation. If the person leaves and a new team takes over, they need to start from scratch. There is nothing to take over. There is nothing to take over but a group of individuals.
That links really well. So Matt with Racecourse Ramble had a great article that he put in his Patreon this week. And I found it really informative, which puts what you're saying into completely clear context for me. And it spoke about, I think it's called a sporting director. So it's more kind of, what is this role that we don't have, but we'll have in the future? And for people like myself who don't know anything about these systems from the admin side, what that means for the academy and therefore the club. And almost verbatim what you're saying, Matt talked about the upheaval in a club when you have a change of leadership, most especially if it's the managers, the coaches changing and their style and whatever they brought. And apparently in Europe, they adopted this approach of developing a club culture and deciding what their philosophies, priorities were going to be, and then building around that. So let's just call it a system that they've decided this is the system we want at this club. And then if we have an opening and we have a change of coach or manager, we go shopping for a coach or manager that is like-minded to plug in order to prevent disruption, massive loss, or financial aspects to restart everything for a different style. So a lot of what you're saying, I find to be connected in that content, which by the way, we are not endorsed by Racecourse Ramble, and anything we do or say should not reflect on that podcast.
I can say more that I do not read anything that, like, you shared the membership with me. I do not read, I do not watch, I do not follow anything. I go in and support you guys every now and then, but the reason why I don't do that is because I don't need to. As cocky as that sounds right now, I like to have my own thoughts. Mm-hmm. And just for your information, Jesse, and for the viewers, is that when I say something, without sounding too arrogant, I know what I'm talking about. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I will do a remark, or I will not say things. I'm not saying that as a point of argue. I'm saying that as a statement, because it's been proven in my life on multiple occasions in multiple organizations, in sports, in military, in business. It's just, I'm stating it because it is that. And if it's offensive, that's when we go back to the...
Like,
The
there's
what,
a
sorry?
lot of competition for. You're also a very fucking busy man, dude. Like, there's a lot of competition for your time, and you don't sleep much. So I do not take away from you not needing a space like I do to build a knowledge base, because you have it and you have. I'm never going to catch up, and thank God I don't aspire to be you, because then my life would be so sad at never attaining it. But you know, it's not just that you want to emphasize that you're coming from a space of self-assurance and confidence in your experiences and your observations and the knowledge you have acquired. I just want to point out, because not everybody knows, you are a busy, busy man.
I am. I'm trying to be, and yeah, thank you. That's a huge compliment. And I also wanted to point out that I do not base my judgments on statistics, because if you base
Okay.
your judgment predominantly on statistics, you have to take statistics into consideration. But if you only base your judgment on statistics, numbers, it becomes the biggest liar. You know the famous saying, "Statistic is the biggest liar." It's when
No,
you
I did not know
base
that one.
majority of your, yeah, yeah, that's when you base most of your decisions on statistics, because statistics is a very one-dimensional meta. It does not include the variables of the human nature.
So
And
it sounds like there's no silver bullet then for what you are talking about shaping a reliable forecast for a group's performance. You can't just pick one spoke in the wheel of data. You have to incorporate different elements, some of which may not be as quantifiable or measurable. What are some other aspects you think are important besides stats?
Looking at the physical and mental condition of the players, and
Okay.
how they function as an organization, as a team. There is one thing that I have noticed many times over, and it's proven to be true, is that the more the team or the leader of the team or any representative of the team states that people are very tight knit and there is a lot of togetherness and there is a lot of strong bonds, the less it is actually true. The best teams that I have ever been on is that they keep everything quiet. There is no show up. There is no statements of how great everything is with regards to working together and being really, really tight. Nobody ever says anything. You just see it, and it just is. The more people go around talking how they all one for all and all for one, the less it is actually that way. And usually, those kind of phrases are used to cover up problems, because that's just,
when you have had those observations, probably those other scenarios didn't have this Hollywood element that the club has. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I am saying that maybe they have this more up front as part of their narrative, because of all the storytelling and the marketability from the entertainment side, that we maybe see it more than we would have if they weren't taken on by Rob and Ryan.
I get the point of Hollywood, but it happens too often. For Hollywood, you
Okay.
don't have to say it every time. And what I notice is that when there is a problem, when there is a very strong sense of big issue, that line always comes on top. And on top of that, that line also serves as a almost like a court sentence to every player in a member organization, because the leader, the head, voices it, and don't you dare say or hint or act not like that, because that means that you are playing against the team. That's why that line is always like, I have experienced it myself in certain teams, not only sports teams, but when it's called politicking. Okay, it's called politicking. When the statement is repeated all the time, it makes you feel guilty about not supporting that statement, even though there is very little behind that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. And as it becomes the the statement, or if you say it enough, it becomes reality, or you don't want to be the one seen as the dissenter and therefore, the problem. But I do think that there still is some legitimacy in that, Americans are different from Brits or from, other parts of the world. And there some stereotypes have some background behind them, like I would say perhaps prior to maybe recent events, chronic compulsive optimism, because an American's experience in life can be very different than other parts of the world, or what they want to hear. And a different audience looks for different kinds of messages to consume to validate their connection or their investment. And I do think that, again, not saying that you're wrong, but I do think there are a lot of folks, particularly perhaps North Americans, who find the message of community or positive messages of community validating, reassuring, and what sets this club apart in their minds from competition. So it could potentially be both. And obviously you've seen stuff that you can separate from what could be lip service to the camera and what is culturally lip service on a different dynamic. But I do think it's fair to say that I would play that up 100%. If I were marketing a team and trying to make money on the Cinderella story, I would 100% turn to 11. We are family.
Jesse, I think we're talking about apples and oranges here. I'm talking about the physical performance and the things that matter with regards to the dynamics within the team and the results and the system of play. You talking about the emotional side of things, building of affection, building of emotional connection. I don't care about that.
Well, it was all that by having that message, because one's in the background.
Perception.
Hearing that and
Absolutely.
not having your background matters to people.
Which I couldn't care less about. Mm-hmm. If it matters to people or not, because if it does matter to people, it's not going to make your situation and your circumstance future proof. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's from performance standpoint.
Oh, sure. So, but
emotions,
what you can provide from an insight might soften the blow for people who feel that strongly and believe in that concept. But if they can see what you see from a sustainability standpoint, it might make the transition easier for them than rather than being gobsmacked when, I was basing my understanding on wins or this kind of situation. And now suddenly we're in the tank. And Ivan's like, I've been telling you.
Look, absolutely. It's they pretty much trying to throw a little bit of hay on the place where the whole thing is going to fall. Okay, so I get that. Like, and that's what I was saying. I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about a different realm kind of a thing. But look, I would believe this whole narrative a little bit more, for example, if I had ever seen a coach who comes out and says, look, it's my fault. I messed up. It's all on me. I haven't witnessed it once. And it needs to be said very directly. Mm-hmm. There is always somebody else or something else to blame. Mm-hmm. And if there was at least couple of examples of when the person would come out and say, it's on me, I'm the one to blame, I'll take full responsibility. No, I've never heard it once. He tried to, every now and then he tries to partially take responsibility, but always makes a remark of,
Who is he?
Mr. Parkinson.
Gotcha. I knew, but not necessarily everybody was going to know that that's who you meant.
Yeah. I mean, it would be good to see that, because that would tell me a lot about the actual togetherness and the actual responsibility. Um, Even when people are emotional, even when, like, as a leader of organization, you need to be taking responsibility for pretty much everything.
Wouldn't you
and
say
everything that happens.
Sorry, wouldn't you say that's a fundamental of, let's say, being in the military, where you would be taught that no matter what the outcome, if you are in charge of a group, whatever happens with that group, the outcome is ultimately your responsibility. And there's a lot of sense of honor and perhaps character that is assigned to developing someone in a leadership position from an accountability standpoint, being willing to throw themselves on the sword and say, I wasn't good enough today. I didn't plan enough. I didn't work hard enough. My question is, well, I guess it's maybe two parts. You'll be able to tell me. Would it matter to you if players said that on the team, or would they be able to, or is it a situation where they have to fall in line and again have the same unified statement coming out of players that supports what the coach is saying publicly?
What would matter to me a lot if players were free to speak their mind.
Okay.
Because and I don't see that either. It's all very. It's not what actually is happening. It's all very. Every interview you can predict what they're going to say. It's not true.
It certainly seems very controlled. Like access is controlled.
Yeah, it's what would matter to me is if people would be frank and honest and say what they really feel. And as a leader, I would always encourage that. It's not about taking things personally. It's about keeping things true and real, and that's what creates true future proofness.
Well, authenticity.
You are.
Yes. This is my authentic opinion, and you, on the flip side, you know what you're working with, what someone is unhappy about, or what their expectation is. Then you can make meaningful change or have meaningful discussions for understanding. Whereas if you're, doing some more performative or other kinds of, you're not being authentic or don't feel like you can speak to the powers in question, that wouldn't be there. I do think that it's worth mentioning, again, a possible factor, not an excuse. I think that the Hollywood side, where the proprietary content with all the cameras and stuff could have some factor. Now, I'm not saying, again, that you're not right, but how monetized the images of these players and everything to do with the club is, I can see why they want to keep tight control on that. I'm not saying it can't be both, but I bet that some other clubs maybe don't have to deal with that aspect of it. And maybe those players have a little bit more freedom because the expectation of them being characters in a show isn't there on top of their regular duties of being a footballer.
Well, in this case, I guess the club needs to decide what takes precedence: the movie, the show, or the football.
Fucking money takes precedence, Ivan, no matter what it is.
If you put money as your number one priority, money will run out. Proven I guess hundreds of times over.
I should clarify that. We know it's a business, and we know that we have, let's say, Robin Ryan, other people at the top making decisions with the best interest of the club and the community at heart. I should not leave people with the impression that that is negated by any means. I think that as the club ascends, we will see more or be able to compare from what was before as we become more informed. It does come down to money. It does come down to what we can afford as far as implementing changes or if it's infrastructure. So to say that it's money doesn't mean that it's the only value, but it is the one on which all the others are sustained. You can have, all the community and all the values that you would like to have, but you may not have lights on and you may not have boots on your players without money. And our circumstance is further complicated by the relationship with the show and how marketing, if it's Stoke Cold Brew or if it's celebrities coming through, if it's an airline, I think it's a little bit more complicated, not just because of those relationships, but because of the mission statement, the public commitment that Rob and Ryan have made about what the values for the club will be. Those are very noble. I think they're appropriate and should have happened from the very beginning, but it is also a template by which they're going to be compared outcomes and things now that it's not so fresh and new. And we're having to sustain a club under these new business dynamics. We'll come back to, does the ticket scheme fall under prioritizing the community? Are we changing the culture of the club and what it represents in Wrexham from its soul from before? These are questions that I think are natural and right to be asked, especially by veteran fans, because it is their club. Yes, it's owned by other, but Wrexham is what it is because of the people who made it. The people who made it that before the takeover and who continue to be a part of it since the takeover. So I think it's going to be hard to always make the right choices, especially when people have different thoughts on what's most important. But when we talk about sustainable success on the pitch, which is your primary concern because that impacts all else. If we go up or if we stay in this league this season, that the viability of the club, its financial stability, therefore, I would say, could be better ensured with a different approach to play than what we see from Parky now and previously. Do you think that's fair?
I think that's very fair, and everything you mentioned is very valid, and it's just we lay out the foundation of future conversations because there is a lot to unpack. It has a lot of dimensions. But what I would say is that everything in football clubs starts from the pitch. Mm-hmm. So the football club is one of those organizations. No matter how much you try to make other things matter more than actually kicking the ball around on the pitch, it will never be. The bottom line is what happens on the pitch, what happens in the dressing room will go up to every other element of the club. That's just the way it works. You gotta perform, you gotta play well, and you gotta have a good culture, which will transcend into everything else. It doesn't work the other way around. It's just one of those setups within the performance-based organization that works 100% of the time. Doesn't matter where you are. And I think as for Hollywood image, in my opinion, it would be a lot more attractive and a lot more catchy if things were authentic, because that's what people watch the reality show for. And it doesn't take a genius to realize that after half a season that you can literally predict word by word what those people are going to say. There is no reality to that anymore. It's a script, and that will cause damage, and it already does.
It has been framed more as storytelling now, rather than necessarily raw footage. There is absolutely an arc, and Rob and Ryan see themselves as storytellers, and that certainly can shape, the course of the show, which has had different styles. And my understanding was that they're going to try to pump out the documentary sooner and sooner, so it's closer to real-time dynamics with the club. I guess we'll see if that pans out this season or not. But I'm going to point out we are now over an hour in our debut show. We've covered a lot. There's more we could go into probably. We don't know what the fuck people are going to think of this. But we haven't played our game yet. Do you think now might be a good time for us to play Everything is Football?
It's an intro show. We might as well introduce what's going to be part of almost every episode. Yeah.
All right. So for the first international debut of Everything is Football, I have 3 items. We might change the number up or down, but I have 3 random items that I will present to Ivan. Ivan has no idea what these items will be. He has no time to prepare, but what he's going to do is see this usually unrelated to football item and tell me how that item is relevant to football. There are not restrictions on this. He's never done it before. So we'll see how this goes down, but it's fucking fun for me. So, okay, item number 1. Let me wait a second. All right, item number 1.
All right. Let's get it.
Spatula.
Okay. This is football because this particular tool is used to scrape each and every last bit of substance out of the bowl.
Okay.
All right. So nothing is left behind. Mm-hmm. In football, you are quite often forced to scrape each and every ounce of talent, speed, physicality, and focus out of your head and brain and your body, which is exactly what this tool is used for. So if a player learns how to use a spatula on inside of his head to scrape each and every ounce of what it takes to win the game, that's definitely football.
Wow. I will never make a cake without thinking about that again. So yeah, leave it all on the field, huh? Scrape it out and leave it all on the field. All right. I think that was an excellent answer. Okay. Item number 2. We have a balloon.
Oh, man.
I am not going to make these easy on you, dude.
No, that's actually very easy. I could give you so many things that are associated with
Well,
with
do more
football.
than one. You're not limited to one.
So I will give you one, and we can get back to that maybe, because there's a lot of things that look like balloons. So we used to do a psychometric testing back in the day. And one of the questions, I don't know why, but it's a evaluation of your mental and psychic aptitude towards a certain sport or activity, was if I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly what colors were, but what the question was in the little quiz was if 75 orange balloons get in fight with 75 purple balloons, which balloons will win? And you have to give your answer, then you have to explain why. And that tells the assessor a lot about your mental state, your mental conditioning, and your reasoning behind what you're going to do in the moments of stress, split decision on the pitch. There is a lot of questions in that questionnaire, but that was one of them.
That is amazing. So I know what my knee-jerk answer would have been, but asked for why, I wouldn't have been able to frame a very insightful. I would have gone with orange because orange is an angrier color. I don't know. And so, but if you peel that back to what do we associate with color and what it represents, and that is super in depth. That's fascinating. And also, this was not pre-planned. I just got the purple balloon.
No.
Holy shit, that's awesome. Okay, item number 3.
Yeah.
Our final item for today. And I'll turn away the label because they're not endorsing us, but body spray. How is body spray football?
Oh, body spray. So, is it a scented body spray?
It's like perfume, but generally very light perfume.
There was a requirement on a lot of teams that you need to smell nice. So you have to maintain, and which is, I agree 100%, because the last thing that you want is, especially on the pitch, is to when you're sweating, and a lot of people have different body odors, you have to take care of your basic hygiene state, be it in the military, be it in the sports and football. So and a lot of people neglect it a lot, and it does not make for a good experience. So body spray, deodorant, whether it's a courtesy. It's courtesy to your teammates. It's a courtesy to your opponent. You will be sweating. You will be smelling you won't be smelling of roses, but at
Mhm.
least it will help the situation because you literally have to hug one another for most of the game and smell each other's underpits and everything else. So it's
Okay.
yeah, it's quite
No,
a
that's a great point. I hadn't thought about it, but with all the other stuff that they chant out of the stands, the one thing I don't hear too often is, your BO is overwhelming. So why give them more ammunition by being stinky or inconsiderate? No,
Yeah.
that's really insightful. Wow. So folks, this was completely unplanned. He did it on the cuff. And I think I have fucking proven, everything can be football. Everything is football. So thank you, Ivan, for participating in that. Do we want to talk about, obviously you've mentioned that you're following, Wrexham this season more from a distance than, waking up at 2 a.m. and following live matches or whatever. Do you want to talk about the 10-minute idea, or do you want to save that for another time? What do you want to do?
Talk about what idea, sorry?
The 10-minute idea. With my 10-minute idea.
Okay, so you want to force me to watch the game for 10 minutes and then
Okay,
talk about
I will explain what the idea is because Ivan's making it sound bad. So given he's a very busy man, given that he doesn't feel that much of a need to watch a full match and has fairly, folks, I'm going to tell you. I know. You have told me repeatedly, he has messaged me where he has made an effort, but finds what's happening on the pitch so difficult to watch because of his values, his wishes, and expectations of what the club could be doing, like this preventable action that he sees as, going to one ending, to there is a crash coming. And as a lot of people could think of, you don't want to watch, if you know the crash is coming, to see the buildup before it, right? I mentioned to Ivan that I thought something that could be fair if he was going to have discussions about Wrexham, if he was going to maybe have a stream, that rather than trying to gut his way through that, which really takes a toll psychologically, and if we all think about anything that we find unpleasant and watching it for 90 fucking minutes, it doesn't have to be football, but just think about anything that really goes against your grain and your principles and your values, and watching your kids do something you told them not to do that will hurt them, to watch, your coworkers do something that you're going to have to fix later for 90 fucking minutes, right? With no influence on it. That shit sucks. It sucks. So what I proposed, kind of like everything is football, is I'd pitch to Ivan, hey, well, since so much of this is predictable, since you're able to extract context from small aspects of play that I certainly can't, right? What if you just watch 10 minutes of a game and then whatever the outcome was, give a little statement or a talk about what you saw in that 10 minutes of play that applies to what the outcome was of the match. So he doesn't have to do it, but if Ivan did decide that the next match or some upcoming match that he wanted to, I have here a little pot, and in it are different 10-minute segments. Now, just for clarification at the front, if you were to get a segment that goes over halftime or into added time, you just have to watch those extra minutes. You don't have to watch the whole halftime, commentary, but if you get 5 minutes added on the first half, you get those 5 extra minutes and still have to do the first 5 of the second half. God forbid you get 8 minutes added on and you got the, 81 to 90 minute, you're watching 18 minutes of football. But so it's an idea. You don't have to do it. We can wait till another time, or I could just pick a piece of paper and you could report back to whenever we do the next one with having watched that.
I agree with that idea. I think it will be interesting, and it will create some really cool content. But I reckon we should do it on the episode number 2.
Do the drawing on episode number 2?
Do the watching or the drawing, whichever way you want to spin it.
Okay, so if I draw now, the expectation would be that the next time we stream, you will have watched a match for that segment of that match before we stream again. You good with that? Okay, let's do it then.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah.
I'm gonna stir it real good, and I haven't faked this, people. There's no point. We are big on authenticity here. These are authentic fucking numbers. Yeah. It is an authentic metal. All right, let's see what we. Yeah. And I won't put them back in. So we will go through until they're out. So if I pick minute 21 to 30, that's out until we're done with all the other minute segments. So you won't be watching the same one again.
Okay.
We have picked minute 51 to 60. So you will start watching 51 to 60, and then you can tell us in the next match how that was relevant to whatever the outcome was.
And I will watch just that time slot.
You don't have to watch anything.
No, just for the honest experiment, just for keeping it straight and authentic.
Not to spare your mental health, just to be honorable. Sure. Okay, Ivan. We'll go with it that way. Well, cool. That'll be exciting. Again, I think that's something that will be interesting. And if it doesn't pan out, it doesn't. But I don't think anybody else is doing that. And like I said, you're a busy freaking dude. So what do you think? Should we wrap it up?
Yeah. I think it's not too bad for the first one, and I had a lot of fun, and I think hopefully somebody will watch it. But look, this is not, just to be clear, this is not any kind of vanity project. This is not for views and popularity. No, it's I enjoy talking to you, Jesse, and it's it's honestly, it's very, very much an educational and almost a sort of healing kind of experience. I love that.
To say that I very much have emphasized to Ivan, maybe since pretty much I've met him, but certainly, this season, almost a year now, that I feel that what he has to say is very valuable. I have found it to be so in helping me shape my overall perspective of Wrexham. Yes. And I think being a more informed fan makes me a better fan. There are other people whose content and insight equally influence me shaping my own opinion and perspective as a fan. And I will become more confident over time having knowledgeable people's perspectives in front of me to shape what will ever be my own voice. And I have my own thoughts on some stuff now, but I want to appreciate brilliance better than I do now. I want to recognize when something is effort that's scraped out with a freaking spatula versus just being commonplace. And through these kinds of education and the kind of stuff that Ivan and other people can teach me to look for, I feel that I can better applaud and better question the players, the managers, the club for what they owe to the fans, what they owe to the community to perform at their best. It has nothing to do with how much I love them. We all know, I think, as adults, that love can be complicated and messy. And people that you love or things that you love can hurt you, can do things that you don't agree with. It doesn't mean that you don't love them. There are people who spend time apart and do better that way and then come back together for short periods of time. There are different ways to love. And how people engage with Wrexham is totally up to them. But I strongly felt and repeatedly told Ivan, you help me understand better. I can't be the only fucking one. So I appreciate that you chose to try this venture. And if nobody else shows up, I was fucking here. And we stayed on the rails way better than we would have if we were just on the phone. So we did a pretty good job.
I appreciate everything you said, and it's very, very flattering. That's I am enjoying talking to you just because
100%.
you you know a lot more about certain things that I do, and the way you formulate things and the way you shape your questions and how you develop and how you extrapolate certain things. I'm learning so much.
Yeah, we
Thank you so
both
much.
grow. And I think that's a great way for engagement or relationships or friendships to be. Is it's healthy if people are growing, broadening their horizons. You don't have to agree, but understanding one another better helps in every context in the world. But I do want you to please remember, if you're not going to mark it, I want to emphasize it here. Ivan played as a player in a Wrexham-esque situation. He then went to a different style of play. So it's not just an outside perspective as a football enthusiast and a formal football player. He has lived as close a situation as possible to what we're witnessing under Parkey versus another style immediately back to back for him to compare and measure success by. And he also has a very analytical mind. So I think coming away from this, though it is embedded deep, deep, deep somewhere where we will probably lose people real early, that for me is the biggest point and takeaway from today's episode. Because if I didn't fucking know that about you, dude, nobody probably knew that aspect. And I think it's very, very key in shaping where you're coming from when you talk about the team and play. So I don't know how the fancy buttons work. It'll be up to you. Next time, you're probably going to be someplace else instead of in the outside of a airport or whatever.
So hopefully I'll be back in base.
Okay, because if I probably talked over you a lot because there's a little bit unpredictable lag of when I think you're done and then you're not. But you're on the other side of the planet. So, well, thank you for the opportunity, man. I had a great time. I'm going to go back to work on my custom Ivan t-shirt line. And maybe next time we'll talk a little bit about we didn't touch really. I was going to, but you came back. We'll touch on the name of the channel. And if nothing else, I want to leave people with the second word is upwards. Anybody who's familiar with Chronicles of Narnia, that is onwards and upwards, or inwards and upwards. They're different, but the main thing here is this is not a doom and gloom space. This is a space where we learn and we share, but the goal is for improvement. The goal is for hope. The goal is for future sustainable success. So the upwards is really something that I hope will resonate with everyone and continue to be a thread in our conversations and shouldn't be overlooked.
Yep, I agree 100%. But it all starts with the I word.
It does start with some I words.
Here we go.
We have some I words, but we will get upwards.
Yep.
All right, friends.
Yep.
So you're gonna shut it down? I don't have anything fancy.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank
you.
Thank
you,
person. Thank you, viewer.
Yes. Yeah. 1, 2.
Yes, singular.
Yeah. Well,
thank you for your singular.
We'll try to do it once a week. That will be our goal, and we'll see where it goes.
But do not expect that. We don't have a particular date. And if anybody hasn't been watching the news, the world is unpredictable right now. So this is the first I've heard him say, let's do it every week. Fuck. Okay. We'll see what happens.
If you, guys, those 25 people who are going to watch it, hopefully, if you like it, if you want more, let us know in the comments. If you want us to discuss certain things in detail, let us know in the comments. We'll base the next one and further ones on what you guys want, and we'll add some spice of our own.
Well, if we have anyone that actually makes it through, I don't know if you can measure that or not, but if someone actually watches the whole thing, I guess they could walk away. But if they deserve a second episode if they want. If they sit through. Okay, we'll see. It's a work in progress. No promises, just maybe aspirations. We'll see what happens.
Okay. And I will finish recording in 3, 2, 1.